2 weeks ago, I told my sister's fiancé that she's been cheating on him with 3 different men throughout their engagement, and now my entire family is acting like I'm the villain for ruining their wedding. My sister Emma has been having affairs with her personal trainer, a coworker, and some guy she met on a business trip, and when I found out about it, I couldn't stand by and watch her marry David when he had no idea what kind of person she really is. Now the wedding is off. Emma isn't speaking to me, and my parents are saying I should have minded my own business instead of destroying my sister's happiness. I'm 28F, and my sister Emma is 31F. We've always had a complicated relationship. Emma was the golden child growing up and has always been used to getting whatever she wants without consequences. She's beautiful, charming, and has this way of making people do things for her while convincing them it was their idea. Emma got engaged to David, 33M, about 18 months ago after they'd been dating for 2 years. David is honestly one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He's kind, loyal, hardworking, and completely devoted to Emma. He works as an accountant and has been saving up for years to give Emma the wedding of her dreams. From the outside, Emma and David seemed like the perfect couple. David worships the ground Emma walks on and has always treated her like a princess. He pays for most of their dates, bought her an expensive engagement ring, and has been working overtime to afford the elaborate wedding Emma wanted. But I've always noticed that Emma doesn't seem to appreciate David the way he deserves. She'd make comments about him being boring or predictable, and she'd flirt with other guys right in front of him. When David would plan romantic surprises, Emma would act like they were nice but not particularly exciting. About a year ago, Emma started going to a new gym and became obsessed with fitness. She talked constantly about her personal trainer Marcus and how he was helping her achieve her best body for the wedding. Emma would spend hours at the gym and would come home talking about Marcus's advice on everything from nutrition to life philosophy. I thought it was a little weird how much Emma talked about Marcus, but I figured she was just excited about getting in shape for her wedding. David seemed supportive of Emma's fitness goals and would even bring her protein shakes after her workouts. 6 months ago, Emma started traveling more for work. She's in marketing, and her company began sending her to conferences and client meetings in other cities. Emma would be gone for 3 or 4 days at a time, and she'd always come back with stories about the interesting people she'd met and the fun networking events she'd attended. Around the same time, Emma became really protective of her phone. She'd take it everywhere, even to the bathroom, and would flip it over when notifications came in. When David would try to look at something on her phone, Emma would snatch it away and say she had work stuff on there that was confidential. 3 months ago, I started noticing that Emma was acting differently around David. She seemed distracted and impatient with him, and she'd roll her eyes when he'd try to discuss wedding planning or their future together. Emma also started picking fights with David over small things, and would use those fights as excuses to leave the house for hours at a time. I asked Emma if everything was okay between her and David, and she said that she was just stressed about the wedding and work. She said that David was being clingy, and that she needed some space to focus on herself before they got married. But Emma's behavior kept getting stranger. She'd get dressed up to go to the gym, she'd be gone for much longer than her workouts should take, and she'd come home seeming energized and happy in a way that didn't match someone who'd just had an intense training session. Emma also started working late more frequently, claiming she had important projects that couldn't wait. David would text her during these late nights and wouldn't get responses for hours, which was unusual since Emma was normally attached to her phone. 2 months ago, I was at the mall with my friend when I saw Emma having lunch with a guy I didn't recognize. They were sitting close together, holding hands across the table, and Emma was laughing in that flirty way she does when she's trying to charm someone. The guy definitely wasn't David. He was younger, more muscular, and had tattoos covering his arms. I was shocked and didn't know what to do. I thought about confronting Emma right there, but I decided to wait and see if there was an innocent explanation. Maybe the guy was a friend from work or someone she was helping with wedding planning. But when I brought up seeing Emma at the mall that day, she lied and said she'd been at the gym all afternoon. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I started paying closer attention to Emma's behavior and began to piece together that she was definitely cheating on David. She'd get mysterious calls that she'd take in private, she'd have unexplained absences, and she'd come home from her various activities looking like she'd been doing more than just working out or attending meetings. 3 weeks ago, everything came to a head when Emma asked me to pick up her car from the mechanic while she was at work. She gave me her keys and said the shop would need to see her registration, which was in her glove compartment. When I opened the glove compartment to get the registration, I found several hotel key cards from different hotels and dates. Some were from weekends when Emma had told David she was visiting college friends, and others were from nights when she claimed to be working late or at the gym. I also found a note that had obviously been written by someone else, saying "Can't wait to see you again" with a phone number. The handwriting was masculine and definitely not David's. At that point, I knew for certain that Emma was cheating, but I still didn't know how extensive it was or who was involved. I wrestled with whether to confront Emma first or to tell David directly, but I was worried that Emma would just deny everything and get better at hiding her affairs. 2 weeks ago, I made the decision to follow Emma when she said she was going to the gym. I felt terrible about spying on my sister, but I needed to know the truth, so I could figure out what to do. Emma drove to the gym like she said she would, but instead of going inside, she met a guy in the parking lot. They got into his car together and drove to a hotel about 10 minutes away. I sat in the parking lot for 2 hours before Emma came back out, clearly having spent that time in a hotel room with this guy. The man she was with was obviously her personal trainer, Marcus. He matched Emma's descriptions and was wearing gym clothes with the name of her fitness center. Seeing them together confirmed that Emma was having an affair with her trainer, but I still didn't know about the other relationships I suspected. That night, I confronted Emma about what I'd seen. I told her I'd followed her to the hotel and that I knew about her affair with Marcus. Emma's first reaction was to deny everything and claim that they'd just been talking about her training program in his car. But when I pointed out that they'd been in a hotel for 2 hours, Emma broke down and admitted that she'd been sleeping with Marcus for about 6 months. She said it had started as just flirtation during their training sessions, but that it had developed into a full sexual relationship. Emma begged me not to tell David and promised that she'd end things with Marcus before the wedding. She said that what happened with Marcus was just physical and didn't mean anything, and that she still loved David and wanted to marry him. I told Emma that she needed to tell David herself, or I would tell him for her. I said that David deserved to know the truth before he married someone who had been betraying him for months. Emma got angry and said that I was being self-righteous and trying to ruin her life over a mistake that didn't affect anyone else. She said that her relationship with Marcus was over and that there was no point in hurting David with information that was no longer relevant. But I pressed Emma about the hotel key cards and the note I'd found in her car. That's when she admitted that Marcus wasn't the only person she'd been involved with during her engagement. Emma confessed that she'd also been sleeping with a coworker named Jake for about 4 months. She said their affair had started during a late night at the office and had continued during business trips and after-work events. Emma also admitted to a third affair with a man named Ryan she'd met at a conference 3 months ago. She said they'd hooked up during the conference and had continued seeing each other whenever she traveled for work or when he came to our city for business. I was horrified that Emma had been carrying on 3 separate affairs during her engagement to David. This wasn't just one mistake or moment of weakness. It was a pattern of deliberate deception and betrayal that had been going on for months. Emma continued to beg me not to tell David and promised that she'd end all 3 relationships immediately. She said that she'd gotten caught up in the attention and excitement of these affairs, but that she realized now that David was the person she wanted to spend her life with. I told Emma that it was too late for promises and that David had a right to know who he was marrying. I said that if the situations were reversed, she'd want someone to tell her if David was cheating with multiple people. Emma said that was different because David would never cheat on her, and that she was just going through a phase of needing to feel desired and attractive before settling down. She said that once they were married, she'd be completely faithful to David because she'd have gotten these feelings out of her system. I couldn't believe that Emma thought cheating with 3 different men was just a phase that she needed to work through. I told her that her behavior showed a fundamental lack of respect for David and their relationship, and that he deserved better than someone who would betray him so extensively. When Emma realized I wasn't going to keep her secrets, she got desperate and started threatening me. She said that if I told David about her affairs, she'd cut me out of her life permanently and make sure our parents knew that I destroyed her happiness out of jealousy. Emma also said that David would be devastated if he found out, and that I'd be responsible for ruining both of their lives. She said that sometimes love means protecting people from painful truths that won't change anything positive. But I couldn't stand the thought of David marrying Emma while believing she was faithful and devoted to him. He was planning to spend the rest of his life with someone who had been systematically lying to him and betraying his trust for months. Last week, I asked David to meet me for coffee because I had something important to discuss with him. When we met, I told him that I cared about him and that what I was about to tell him was going to be difficult to hear. I explained that Emma had been having affairs during their engagement and that I felt he deserved to know before their wedding. David's face went completely white, and he asked me if I was sure about what I was saying. I told David about following Emma to the hotel with Marcus, about the hotel key cards and note I'd found in her car, and about Emma's confession regarding the 3 different men she'd been sleeping with. I also showed him photos I'd taken of the hotel key cards as evidence. David was silent for a long time, just staring at the evidence I'd presented. Finally, he asked me why I was telling him this, and whether I had any proof beyond Emma's confession and the hotel cards. I explained that I'd struggled with whether to tell him, but that I couldn't watch him marry someone who had been betraying him so extensively. I said that I thought he deserved to make an informed decision about his future based on the truth about Emma's behavior. David thanked me for telling him and said he needed time to process everything. He asked me not to tell anyone else about our conversation until he decided what he wanted to do with the information. 2 days later, David confronted Emma about the affairs. According to what Emma told me later, David presented her with the evidence I'd provided and asked her to explain herself. Emma initially tried to deny everything, but when David showed her the photos of the hotel cards and told her he knew about all 3 men, she broke down and confessed. Emma tried to minimize the affairs and convince David that they didn't mean anything, but David said that the extent of her deception was unforgivable. David told Emma that he couldn't marry someone who had been lying to him for months and carrying on multiple affairs throughout their engagement. He said that even if he could forgive the cheating, he could never trust her again. Emma called me that night, screaming and crying about how I'd ruined her life. She said that David had broken up with her and called off the wedding, and that it was all my fault for not minding my own business. Emma also said that she'd told our parents what I'd done, and that they were furious with me for destroying her relationship. She said that the wedding had been paid for, that deposits couldn't be refunded, and that I'd cost our family thousands of dollars by interfering in her personal life. When my parents called me, they were indeed angry and disappointed. They said that Emma's private life was none of my business, and that I should have let her work out her own problems. They said that marriage is complicated and that many couples go through rough patches before their weddings. My parents also said that Emma's affairs might have been a symptom of cold feet or pre-wedding anxiety, and that she probably would have been faithful after marriage. They said that by telling David, I'd prevented Emma from having the chance to grow and mature into a better wife. I tried to explain that Emma's behavior wasn't just cold feet, it was a pattern of deception and betrayal that showed fundamental problems with her character. I said that David had a right to know who he was marrying, and that hiding the truth would have been cruel to him. But my parents said that I'd appointed myself judge and jury over Emma's life and that the consequences of my decision had destroyed her happiness. They said that Emma might never find someone who loved her as much as David did, and that I'd ruin her chance at a good marriage. Update: 2 weeks later. The fallout from telling David about Emma's affairs has been even worse than I expected. Emma moved back in with our parents after David broke up with her, and she's been making my life miserable ever since. Emma has been telling everyone in our family and friend group that I sabotaged her relationship out of jealousy and spite. She's been saying that her affairs were just mistakes that she would have corrected, and that I destroyed her future happiness by interfering where I didn't belong. Several family members have called to tell me they're disappointed in my behavior. My aunt said that family members should support each other, not tear each other down. My cousin said that Emma's private life was none of my business, and that I should have confronted her privately instead of going straight to David. Emma has also been spreading rumors that I've always been jealous of her relationships, and that I told David about her affairs because I wanted him for myself. This is completely untrue. I care about David as a friend and think he's a great guy, but I've never had romantic feelings for him. The wedding venue, caterer, and other vendors are all refusing to refund deposits, which means my parents are out about $15,000. Emma keeps reminding me that I'm responsible for this financial loss and that the money could have been saved if I'd just kept my mouth shut. David has been staying with friends since the breakup and hasn't contacted me since our coffee meeting. I heard through mutual friends that he's been struggling emotionally and has taken time off work to deal with everything. Some people are saying that he's better off without Emma, but others think I should have let him make his own choices. Emma's former affair partners have apparently been trying to contact her since news of the breakup spread. Marcus, her personal trainer, showed up at our parents' house asking to talk to Emma, but my dad told him to leave and threatened to call the police if he came back. I've been questioning whether I did the right thing. Seeing how devastated Emma is and how much chaos this has caused for our family makes me wonder if I should have handled things differently. Maybe I should have given Emma a chance to end the affairs and tell David herself before their wedding. But then I think about David and how he would have felt if he'd found out about Emma's betrayals after they were married. At least now he can make a clean break and find someone who will actually be faithful to him. Update: 1 month later. Emma has been trying to get back together with David, but he's not interested in reconciling. She's been calling and texting him constantly, showing up at his apartment, and even trying to contact him through his family and friends. David finally agreed to meet with Emma for coffee last week, but according to what she told my parents, the conversation didn't go well. David told Emma that he could never trust her again, and that the extent of her betrayals had shown him that they weren't compatible for marriage. Emma came home from that meeting completely devastated. She's been crying constantly and keeps saying that she threw away the best relationship she ever had for meaningless flings that she didn't even care about. My parents have been encouraging Emma to fight for David and have even suggested that I should apologize to him for interfering in their relationship. They think that if I admitted I was wrong to tell him about the affairs, David might be willing to reconsider his decision. I refuse to apologize because I still believe I did the right thing. David deserved to know the truth about Emma's behavior before making a lifelong commitment to her. The fact that Emma is now admitting her affairs were meaningless just proves that she wasn't taking her engagement seriously. Emma has also been having to deal with the social consequences of the wedding cancellation. She's had to explain to friends, co-workers, and extended family why the wedding was called off, and apparently most people have figured out that she cheated on David. Some of Emma's friends have been supportive and are encouraging her to learn from this experience and grow as a person. But others have been more judgmental and have distanced themselves from her since they found out about the affairs. Emma's work situation has also become uncomfortable since Jake, one of her affair partners, is still her co-worker. Emma told me that they've been trying to maintain a professional relationship, but that it's awkward and stressful to see him every day. I heard from a mutual friend that David has started dating someone new, a woman he met through friends who apparently has no connection to Emma or our family drama. Emma was devastated when she found out and has been asking mutual friends for details about David's new relationship. The whole experience has made me realize how different Emma and I are in terms of our values and decision-making. I could never imagine betraying someone I claim to love the way Emma betrayed David, and I'm starting to understand that we may never see eye to eye on this situation. Update. For months later, Emma has finally stopped trying to win David back and seems to be accepting that their relationship is permanently over. She started seeing a therapist to work through her issues with commitment and infidelity, which I think is a positive step. David got engaged to his new girlfriend last month, which sent Emma into another spiral of grief and regret. She's been talking about how she lost the one, and how she'll never find someone who loved her as much as David did. My parents have gradually stopped blaming me for the situation, and have started acknowledging that Emma's behavior was problematic. My mom admitted that she was disappointed in Emma's choices, but had been focused on trying to fix the immediate problem rather than addressing the underlying issues. The financial impact of the canceled wedding is still causing tension in our family. My parents had to take out a loan to cover the deposits they couldn't recover, and they're still paying it off. Emma has been contributing what she can from her salary, but it's going to take a while to pay back everything. Emma's affair with Jake ended messily when he started spreading details about their relationship around their office. Emma had to go to HR to file a complaint about workplace harassment, and Jake was transferred to a different department. The whole situation has made Emma's work environment uncomfortable, and she's been looking for a new job. Marcus, her former personal trainer, apparently got fired from the gym when word got out about his relationship with Emma. The gym has a policy against trainers getting involved with clients, and several other women came forward to say that Marcus had been inappropriate with them as well. I've maintained my position that telling David was the right thing to do, but I've tried to be more supportive of Emma as she works through the consequences of her choices. She's my sister, and even though I don't approve of her behavior, I want her to learn from this experience and become a better person. Emma and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship, though it's been difficult. She's still hurt that I chose David's well-being over her secrets, but she's starting to understand that her affairs were serious betrayals that David had a right to know about. Update. 10 months later. Emma has been doing much better lately. She found a new job at a different company and has been focusing on rebuilding her life and working on herself in therapy. She's been single since the breakup with David and says she's not ready to date again until she's figured out why she cheated and how to avoid making those mistakes in the future. David got married to his new girlfriend 2 months ago. Emma was understandably upset about it, but she handled the news better than I expected. She said that seeing David happy with someone else helped her realize that she needs to let go of the past and focus on her own growth. My parents have paid off the loan from the canceled wedding deposits and have stopped bringing up the financial cost of my decision. They've also started acknowledging that Emma's affairs were serious problems that needed to be addressed, even if the timing and method were painful. Emma and I have rebuilt our relationship to the point where we can have honest conversations about what happened. She's admitted that she was living a double life during her engagement and that her affairs were symptoms of deeper problems with commitment and self-worth. Emma has also thanked me for forcing her to confront her behavior, even though she hated me for it at the time. She said that therapy has helped her understand that she was sabotaging her relationship with David because she didn't feel worthy of his love and devotion. I still believe I made the right choice in telling David about Emma's affairs. He deserved to know the truth before making a lifelong commitment, and hiding that information would have been a betrayal of our friendship and my values. The experience taught me that sometimes doing the right thing means accepting short-term consequences and family conflict. Emma needed to face the reality of her choices, and David needed to make an informed decision about his future. Even though the fallout was painful for everyone involved, I believe the truth was ultimately better than a marriage built on lies and deception. Emma is working on becoming a better person. David is happily married to someone who values him, and our family has learned important lessons about honesty, accountability, and the consequences of our choices. It took almost a year, but I think everyone is in a better place now than they would have been if David had married Emma without knowing the truth about what she was doing.